All right, welcome to the Throttle Stop Motorcycle Podcast. We have with us Matt, obviously, you know Matt, and then our KTM rep, who's Farm to Gas, Pure Mobility Group, however you want to put it. This is Brad.
How y'all doing today? So I had a special guest with me today. I brought John Hinz, president of KTM North America, with me. So Matt, Jeff suckered us in and said, hey, we're going to put you on TV or a broadcast right quick. So here we are.
Yep. Don't tell me you get shy when there's actually a camera in front of you.
Dude, I'm always shy.
Here we go. No, you are not.
Get to be shy.
Everyone, this is Brad Skelton, by the way. So we'll do a proper introduction.
And we're all worried about him being on here with us.
Yeah.
No.
So we actually just wanted Brad to come on, and he needed somebody to put the guardrails on him so they didn't, speak out of line.
Right.
That's fair.
No,
So
we let him run. We let him run.
Yeah. So we'll see how this goes. It's been a good run so far.
Can't wait.
Yeah. But
guys, thanks for having us on. We appreciate it.
No, we really appreciate you being here. And I guess how you guys have impacted us once Brad came on as our rep. So we were number one in the Southeast last year.
Yes, sir.
We were 38th in the country.
Well,
right?
Yep.
38th.
Yep. Let's go. That sounds like that's actually a good story. Yep.
486 and 486 dealers in the U.S. I believe. 38 out of that. So obviously we owe a lot of.
Sounds like I'm doing a great job.
You, and you as well, John. For I guess putting him in our lap and making us have to put up with him. So
Yep.
No, you guys are doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Yeah, for
The
sure.
store looks amazing, and how you take care of your customers, how you lead your dealership. It's really an honor to be here. So
thank you.
appreciate you having us on.
Yeah.
So, obviously KTM's come under some fire lately, and had its own little own struggles as far as the what do they call it? The not receivership. It's not a bankruptcy. It is a
Restructure.
self-directed restructuring of the company. Yep. So obviously there's some things that come along with that. There have been, allegations of cam failures. There's been stuff talking about China, and we'll get to some of that. Like I don't want to make that the focus of the podcast. But I want to at least introduce you guys. John has kids that ride. John has been with KTM for a long time, and I kind of want to start there and just kind of, talk about something else for a little bit. So you've been with the company KTM North America.
It's 2007.
2007. Yep. I was told by someone who knows you, I won't rat them out completely, to ask you about your first project with KTM.
Well, I started with a pretty interesting project. So I was working for another manufacturer at the time, and a good friend of mine had come over to KTM. So Robert Pierce had come on over, and I'd stayed in touch with Robert and was talking to him about what's happening with the company, and was thinking about maybe doing something different. And he said, hey, there's a pretty cool project coming. They're going to bring an ATV to market. And the other manufacturer that I was working with, I was in their dealer network. So I was aware of all the laws, the regulations, the safety standards, everything that goes with ATVs, because that business is pretty fundamentally different than motorcycles.
For sure. Yeah.
And at the time, KTM was really off-road, racing machine. Like that's what they knew was off-road racing motorcycles. And so there wasn't anyone truly in the organization that knew that side of the business with ATVs and the regulations dealers had to follow and product standards and some of those key attributes to doing good business with ATVs. So he said, hey, you should come on over, talk to our president, John Eric Burleson, who's a long-term, best friend of mine now. And so I went over and met with Jeb and Robert. They agreed to join the organization. So I actually started with the ATV project, which, by the way, was a pretty short-lived project. So
right.
That project didn't last real long because
It was good while it lasted.
right after we launched it in 2007, 2008 was the global financial crisis, and sport ATV market completely imploded and fell apart.
You couldn't give away a sport ATV during
It was tough back then.
So was that post Leadman and all that on the, and I don't know if that really affected KTM because
around
that was a 450 adult, right? It was always
Leadban was after, but that was during beef trade wars.
Okay.
So beef trade wars was 08 and 12, and then Leadban was somewhere around in the middle of that.
Yeah.
So those were some government crisis that I actually helped Jeb and Robert with in the company, and we had to do all lead testing on our mini bikes, and we had to go to to Washington, D.C. and testify on the impact of the business on the lead law and the impact, of course, on tariffs, and get dealers activated and write letters to congressional members. And
all of this stuff is stuff that, we think about as dealers. You're going to think about as, corporate KTM. But, from the consumer standpoint, we don't really think about the beef tariff, like what the beef trade wars that were going on. There were, so for them, like we were fighting, they're threatening to, tariff everything out of Austria under 500 cc's. Is that right?
with the beef trade,
Is like 100% though.
Yeah.
Like it's 100% tariff
Yep.
on everything that was coming in.
Yep.
And so that was a major deal, and you've had to handle a lot of issues like that. And obviously that's something that's happening sort of now. We're going to have issues with tariffs coming up. Before we move on too much, so 2007, 2008, 2009, were you with KTM at the time?
No, I started 17. So actually,
17. So you avoided all
was
that.
my 8th year anniversary.
Or were you
Congrats.
before that?
So look, I made 8 years, and I come up here, and then who knows now? Maybe not 8 more minutes, but yeah, 8 years.
This is probably it.
Hey, and the one thing that Heinz likes to skip over is his ATV stuff, but we still work all the trackside support, all the GNCCs.
Yeah.
Every GNCC, we still get a customer. Hey man, I wish y'all would make an ATV again. If you'd make one today, I'd buy it today. Like so John did a really good job on the 4-wheel side. So don't let him glaze over that he's not a quad guy. He's
I'll
one
be
of us.
honest. If
we did a lot of different stuff. I did Husabergs, I did Crossbow, launched the RC8.
Man.
So a lot of those early projects where the company was making some pretty dramatic changes from being a really focused just off-road race company into a full motorcycle.
What was your role in that?
global motorcycle.
What was your role in the development of like the ATV side of it? You're talking about the safety standards and all of that. I know that Polaris was brought in at the time. So what role did you play in that?
So by the time I joined the organization, like the product was done.
Oh, okay.
So I actually took the product to market. Like we launched the product.
Okay.
Started racing GNCC. We were racing some flat track with Tim Farr. So we
ATV
had,
Nationals too.
Yep. So we had a couple different race programs that we were doing. Got involved on the customer racing side and bringing the product to market. That's where I was.
So I was going to ask when a factory flat track single was coming, maybe we need a factory quad also.
We had it with Tim Farr. I mean, Tim Farr was one of the greatest of all time.
Well, a flat track,
he was
not a flat track quad, but a flat track motorcycle.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, we just did that too with Cody Kopp.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Chris Fillmore.
Yeah.
That was another little project that we had.
Yeah, I'd love to get a series started on. Yeah, I'd love to get a series started on this half of the country.
Yep.
My only gripe with the ATVs at this point is that showroom space comes at a premium around here. And so we're, putting
a lot of ATV talk. That product's long gone. Yeah, a lot of ATV talk. A lot of ATV talk. Here we go. All right, let's go. Get it all out.
My point is, I don't want that again. Like, I think I can sell it. I don't want that again.
We're focused on motorcycles.
But as you go from there, getting up, through the years, eventually, next thing I know about you is you're, named as the next CEO of KTM North America. So how did you get from there all the way to there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's a journey. My whole career has been a journey, and it's a bit like I mentioned. I helped out the company with Husaberg when that came back to the company. We brought distribution back in house. We set up a whole new dealer network.
Yeah.
We basically evolved that brand, brought out brand new product, a new generation of motorcycle. We had the Crossbow project for a short period of time. We're going to bring that to the U.S. So set up a network for that, and eventually, at that time, Audi stopped it. The car is in the States now.
Right.
So we've been importing and selling it through a select group of partners of ours, specifically around racetracks because it's a competition vehicle. But I worked on that project. Worked on the launch of the RC8 Superbike, and then the whole street bike line. Then eventually, product manager for all the products, off-road, motocross, street, and via that process, worked a lot with the marketing team because of the product marketing connection, and eventually took over the marketing department as vice president of marketing, homologations of the import regulations of importing all the vehicles into the U.S. Fillmore and I went superbike racing with the RC8, so we did that project together as marketing for the RC8, and just kind of worked on all kinds of different projects for the company. Really not in one vertical, but all the projects you had to work across the entire organization. So you had to work with customer service, you had to work with marketing, with sales, with homologation, legal, finance, accounting, racing. And I think truly being blessed to be able to work on all those different things gave me this breadth of knowledge across the whole organization on how it works, what do we have to do, how do we take products to market, how do we best support our dealers, how do we connect best with our customers. And eventually, John Eric, after 20 years, decided he wanted to go do something on his own and create his own company and invest in some other businesses, and had that opportunity, and was well positioned, and then worked with him on the business, on the strategy of the business. And
I saw where
had
you
the opportunity there.
You had like the announcement came out and you guys kind of worked together for a year or so, and then you took over, right?
Jeb stayed on for a couple months
Okay.
after the announcement, but I mean, we had worked side by side, for 10 years.
Yeah, and
So
there was a lot of growth under him, and that's one thing I noticed. Like I was a KTM dealer as of 2014, and you know, KTM was a growing company even before that, and I saw how like I actually traced their stock price where it was like $5, it had grown to $150 by 2015, and then just kept. It seemed like there was no end to it. And then we get into your tenure where you got started going from 2017 to 2019. It was still growth,
mhm.
and then COVID happened.
Yeah,
Like,
then it got crazy.
yeah, I mean, I don't know how it was for you guys, but for us, we're all worried. Like, we're like, what's going to happen to the motorcycle industry? Obviously, it turned out for the better, but like we reacted, right?
Yeah, I mean, I pulled 25% from everybody's pay. What was it? Middle of April,
Yeah,
or so.
that lasted like 2 weeks.
And then and I mean, like we might as well not even been here
But you
at
couldn't
one point.
forecast
It was
the global pandemic would make your motorcycle business better. Like you missed that.
I tried, but every now and then my crystal ball is a little cloudy.
Dude, I mean,
But yeah, I mean, we did. We were scrambling and we were worried. I mean, just like everybody else. I'm sure y'all were too, right? Because it was like you turned the spigot off, not like slowed it down, but completely off. And yeah, I pulled 25% of salaries from everybody, including myself, and then a couple weeks later, it was wide open, and I paid we put everybody back to where they were, and then trued everybody up shortly after that, and then it was just weird because it was more taking orders than selling motorcycles, right? It was,
We thought we were going to drive the ship, and then we ended up having to react the other direction.
yeah. I mean, like pretty quickly, it became, where can I find a motorcycle to sell because this guy wants it.
Well, it was kind of like the first time in history we'd ever had a phenomenon that nobody had ever experienced. They always say history repeats itself.
Right.
Well, it does, except you never had a pandemic in the modern motorcycle age. So how do you know what to predict on it? I mean, I remember having meetings with Hinz. Like we'd have a meeting every day at 12 o'clock East Coast time, 9 o'clock. And for us on the East Coast, that information that come out of that meeting was good for 4 or 5 hours until the end of the day. And then I won't say we sat idle, but it was changing at such a rapid pace that we didn't know what was going on until the next meeting the next morning. And you would get, one day we were going left, the next day you're going right. And like you said, it was funny because we saw the uptake pretty early on. Like at the time I was handling Florida directly. And I called John and I was like, hey dude, the lights have come back on down here. Like all of a sudden and then as we started to see that, then it was like, hey, I got the guys in here, and instead of wanting no more, they want all they can get. And we started seeing that ramp, and then it was funny to watch it. Like we talk about the Sun Belt, then it kind of goes across Texas, and then as it started to rise up, and that's just like you. How do you know what to do on something you've never done before?
Well, and we moved during, like, we were building this facility during that time, and we had started it, and we were far enough into it that it didn't make sense to pull the plug. So we ended up being roughly 20% over budget on this building because of materials. And Jeff, I don't know if you remember, but the roll-up doors on the front of the building, when I first looked at this building, before I ever walked into it, I knew that I wanted those glass roll-up doors.
Yeah.
So like that was the second thing that I put on the punch list of things to do during construction. So I had to wait like another year and a half to get my roll-up glass doors.
Yeah.
You know, we worked out of here with like canister doors over there because you just couldn't get materials. So
I still have all of my notes from that time, and like you said, it was this such a strange time in history for everyone. And I remember I made a trip to Barcelona in February of 2020, and we had a global meeting over there, and of course Europe had started to get affected by it in certain countries, and there was even some concern from some of my colleagues here about me going over, and I'm like, no, I need to go. And still nobody was sure, but we knew something was happening. I came back from the trip and I talked to our team and said, we need to get prepared to potentially work remote, make sure we got laptops, phone systems can do it, make sure we can support our dealers, support our employees. And March 15th, that's when California shut down. I was at home. I remember it happening. I called our management team and said, we got to get together tomorrow morning. Everybody's got to read through the California regulation. We got to make sure that we can stay in business. And we sat down and said, if we do three things, we're going to be successful. So number one, we got to take care of all of our employees. We got to make sure that we keep all the world-class employees that we have. Number two, we got to take care of our dealers. And number three, we got to sell a little bit and collect a little bit of revenue to keep the wheels turning.
right.
And I said, if we do those three things, then we're going to be successful as an organization through this. And every time a state would release, legislation on how they were shutting down or what was shut down or what was going to happen in that state, I would make sure our team would read through it, and then we would update the whole sales team and tell them, make sure you talk to your dealers, and we would find ways for them to become an essential business. So we were an essential business because we delivered an essential form of transportation for medical workers, emergency workers, for employees that are essential to the security of the United States.
Right.
And for our dealers, we would read through all the regulations and see, like, if you had water or food or beverages that you sold in your store, then you were an essential business. So we would guide the team, like, talk to the dealer, make sure they've got this in the front of their store. If service was available, make sure you've got signs that service is available, and via service you could provide service loaners or sell out the back or white glove delivery or whatever we could to find a way for our dealers to become essential businesses and be able to stay open and help support their customers, help support their employees. Just like you, I had people painting the building, painting the fences. We had engine guys that were sweeping out old warehouses and anything we could do to find work because we weren't racing.
Yeah.
All racing was shut down. All events were shut down. We had a whole team that was in Texas at the time that we had to call back. Like, I remember making the phone call going, yep, time, shut it down. You're halfway through the event. And I think it was Freestone or something. And it's like, come on back.
When did you see the racing and all that start to pick back up?
So we saw it, I could see it in the daily retail sales. So we also changed a lot of our business practices,
right,
on how we looked at the business, how we tracked the business. And we still use all of those different reports and metrics today. So we had to evolve the business to understand what was happening on a daily basis, and everything shut down. And then we slowly started to see off-road motorcycles start to sell.
Yeah.
And you could see enduro bikes and cross-country bikes start to sell. And then as soon as motocross tracks opened in a certain area, you'd see a little spike of motocross bikes. And we could literally track it. And then it was full size. And then after that, it was minis because parents couldn't buy their kids minis. And we started to see a shift in the days that motorcycles would sell. Historically, Friday, Saturday, biggest days. It was, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And Friday, Saturday would drop off because that's when people were out riding motorcycles.
Right.
They were actually buying during the week because they were at home.
Right. Yeah.
And they weren't going into an office, and they had time to go to the motorcycle store, assuming it was open. And so we saw this just shift in everything. And then clearly off-road picked up that first year, and the second year, as soon as the vaccination hit, then we saw street bikes go.
Yep.
And it's a different mindset and a different mentality for a street bike owner than it is for a motocross or off-road owner.
That's interesting to hear you say that that there was a shift from weekend sales to weekday sales, because we saw the exact same thing here, and to some degree it's stuck, hasn't it? Like, I mean,
I would agree.
So y'all see the same. Y'all see the same thing on.
So
that's interesting.
We get a report. We get lots of reports for a weekly report, and it shows you kind of get it ramp up to Wednesday. and Thursday turns back off, and then you should get a second, like you get a Friday, Saturday deal. But
Yeah.
it's funny, I don't ever remember it. Like, I don't think Wednesday is my big retail day.
Oh, it's always been just people show up on Saturday, you're setting up deals and
That's
setting them
it.
up.
You're getting ready for the weekend, and
week.
you know, like we race a lot, so like you always had I always think of Monday being a busy day because I need to whatever we wore out or need to replace whatever we're buying new of. But like Wednesday seems to be I don't know, like we talk about, it just seems like that has been a shift in business. It's continued.
Right. Yeah.
So as we saw like sales pick back up, we saw it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but more bikes came into the States in 2020 than we saw in 2019. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And that just kept ramping up and ramping up.
Yeah.
And I think that that's somewhat where we get kind of into trouble as, at KTM to do that. What I imagine happening, and what you can kind of elaborate on this, they had to sign contracts. They had to sign long-term contracts with suppliers on these parts to make sure, and that put them in a position where you had to keep producing that level of motorcycle. Is that sort of?
It's sort of to some degree. Our company's pretty nimble, and that we're a racing company. Like that's the ethos and mindset of the organization. So when the pandemic started, no one knew. Then it started to come back, and then it like hit with a vengeance, and everybody wanted to be out, outside and outdoor recreation and motorcycling. We're all thankful that was a part of that surge. So it was cycling and bicycling, and at that time, there's year on year kind of repetition where you've got a good gauge on volume, you've got a good gauge on inventory, on sell through, on how the business progresses year on year. And there's different factors, of course, each year that you'll modify your projections for, but no one can project what happened in COVID, where everybody wanted to be outside and everybody wanted to be a part of outdoor recreation. And literally we sold down to zero inventory. Our inventory, dealer stock, everything was gone. Everything was off the shelves. And our company's pretty nimble, racing mindset. So I talked to our management in Austria, our board of directors, and said, hey, we've got an opportunity here in America. Our dealers need more inventory. Our customers want our products. They want our brands, and let's take advantage of that. And there was parts of the world that didn't rebound as quickly as what happened here in the United States and Canada. And so we were able to quickly take that inventory, create the right spec for the United States market and Canadian market, bring that inventory in and backfill U.S. dealers and make sure that you had products for your customers.
Right.
So from a very dramatic situation, we were able to react very quickly and make sure that we had motorcycles here and parts here and inventory here to support this market. But of course, coming out of that, then you got to find the right level again.
Yeah.
And
we knew it wouldn't last forever.
Yeah, and that's a situation that every business is in,
right?
Not just our business,
and
but all manufacturers, all products, all businesses are finding that right level again.
Exactly. Yeah.
The COVID boom.
Yeah, and I've said it a lot, and I guess I can't deny it now because it's going to be recorded. Like I feel like the dealers are to blame because of the influx in inventory now, because we all asked for it, right? I mean,
I don't think so at all.
No, you don't think.
But so how low did your inventory get? How many?
I mean, it looked like we were going out of business.
It looked like you were going across the nation.
I literally had guys calling me and going, "Hey, dude, if you don't give me some motorcycles, I've got customers asking if we're going out of business."
Right.
So that's why I asked you, what at your lowest point, what was your real time inventory on new units? If I walked in that day and went, "Hey, was it 10, 20?"
I think probably the best way to answer that is we talked about it at one point, and we were 1-to-1 on sales and deliveries. So crated motorcycles coming out the back of a tractor trailer, and motorcycles going out the front door was 1-to-1 for like 3 months in a row. And I don't remember, that was right in the middle of all of it. So yeah, I mean, that alone tells you there wasn't a whole lot sitting here on the floor, right?
That's the conversation is like I see this inventory, how many motorcycles are in stock today? So that's the prediction is you go from this level down to 1-to-1. So where's the reality anymore? And we've seen people think about how many new customers come into the base. We talked about it. Well, we didn't care as a manufacturer. It was just cool to see all the people experience.
Yeah.
Because we took a bunch of that customer from the stick and ball stuff that just got away from us.
Yeah.
We all know once you ride a motorcycle, your motorcycle's for life. Now, you'll come and go and all, but like I said, so when you get that influx that whole big group of new riders, like what is the maintenance level on that group of riders look like, and from a parts perspective and all that. So everybody's got to find a new baseline, and I think that's what we're all struggling with.
Right.
And it's a partnership. I mean,
Right.
that's why we're here. We're here to talk to you, to find out what do you need, how can we help, how can we help your customers, how can we help your business. Like that's the type of company that we are, and that's what we do. So now we all together have to find
find
the right level,
that right spot. Yes, and you won't hear any of us argue that you guys have made the effort to. That's one of the reasons. That's one reason why the KTM's in the financial situation that it's in, right? To some degree, is because all the help that has been offered to right that ship.
A lot of support, but also a lot of investment.
Right.
Like our company invests into the sport. We're a motorcycle company. This is what we do. This is what we love. This is our passion.
Right.
You look through our organization and your organization, and I mean, you're a motorcyclist and cyclist. Like you love two wheels, and that's the same for us.
Right.
And when you have a group of people that are so like-minded and so passionate, you want to see this sport grow. We want it to be better. Exactly. This is what we've dedicated our lives to.
Right.
And so we've been investing in the sport. We've been investing in the business, and we want to see it grow.
Like even from like the Motor X sales, like I prefer to get it through KTM because I know that money goes back to support racing. And that's that was just recently revealed to me is that the Motor X sales actually contribute to that.
Yes,
for sure.
So it's interesting. So in 2023, we sold 319 orange, white, and red motorcycles collectively, right? So KTM, Husqvarna, Gas, we sold 319. In 2024, we sold exactly the same number, 319. Again,
you didn't buy a motorcycle from me and make it 320.
So
User did his part.
So
my part. Yes, my problem. I bought a bicycle.
He did buy a bicycle.
He did buy a bicycle.
Actually. All right.
2 wheels.
So
if you'd made a foiler, I'd have bought one. How's that for an answer?
We did that one.
Oh, we did that. Flat track foiler.
Yeah, flat track foiler, matter of fact.
So the KTM number was exactly the same, and the Husqvarna and Gas numbers, the volume were skewed, but equaled 319. And we talked about it the other day. We are up just a tick this year.
Correct, just a tick.
Year to date over last year. Obviously, everybody's doing business a little different. Obviously, there's some hurdles currently, and we kind of alluded to this in the beginning. But all of our KTM, Husqvarna, Gas customers, all the Peter customers are aware of the issues, if you will, whether it be cams or financials or whatever. I think it's been KTM has maybe been a little too transparent. I think transparency is good, right? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Flash of transparency. That's been my thing. Like, so the headline within the Pierre Mobility Group, their corporate site is we invest in China, and like didn't even it didn't express like exactly what that meant. And then you see, Cycle News or whoever comes out with an article and they say KTM moves production to China. Well, they didn't specify which production. Like people only read the headline, so we end up, just thinking all the bikes are made in China now.
Yep.
And there's two models. Yeah. 790s, right?
And I want to address, I think, for your customers too. Like you mentioned the cam issue. You mentioned it.
Right.
There's very, very few cam issues that are reality fact cam issues.
Right. But I got a Facebook group that says otherwise.
I agree, and there's a whole bunch of people that have gone to your Facebook group that says otherwise. But I want to make sure that it's clear to your customers. If there's any issue with the motorcycle, bring it to you. Your technicians, they're service qualified. They come to our training centers. They know what to look for. They know if there's any concerns. They can take it apart, visually inspect it, make sure that there isn't any issues, and if there is, we're going to take care of it. So we're standing behind the product. The new 23, 24, 25 twin cylinder motorcycles from here on out all have a 4-year warranty. If the customer comes in and does their service at your shop, they get a 2-year extension on it, so a total of 4 years. So we're standing behind all the product, and we always have, and we always will.
And
the number of actual cam failures is pretty small.
And I agree 100%. I mean, when this first came out, I started paying attention to it, obviously, right? Because customers started asking me about it, and we've talked about it on here before. I think we're still at 2 790s, Jeff.
Yeah.
Is that?
It's 2, maybe a third.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So 7 out of 319 units a year. Obviously, all those weren't 790s and 890s, but point being, this dealership alone has put a lot of those bikes into market. And then you stack on top of that all the other dealerships that have put those bikes in market, and we've only seen 2 790 camshaft failures. I mean, I don't see the problem, right? Obviously, that's a problem. Any type of failure is a problem, but everything has failures. It doesn't matter what brand or if it's twin cylinder, single cylinder, or whatever.
Mechanical,
right?
It can happen, and it also can happen based on where people ride, how they maintain, like what happens. But that's why your technicians are trained. Right. They can ask those questions, find out what actually happened with the motorcycle and what is the failure, and stay connected to our customer service and our operations. We record all those failures. So if there is one, we know it globally. We can track those things and make sure that they're addressed and our customers are taken care of. And that's what you do. And you do a great job. We absolutely appreciate you doing that for us. Yeah.
I've been waiting on the internet to call and send me my thank you note, because I don't know what the internet would have done for the last couple of years if it wasn't for us. So
right.
I
wouldn't have anything to talk about.
They would have been really bored.
Residual check. I mean,
That's
like,
right.
the internet would be out of business if it wasn't for KTM for the last couple of years. I don't know how we got to be the poster boy, but
so moving beyond that and the financials, I was sitting here trying to remember the name of it. It's not Orange Brigade, but there's a customer community initiative. I'm reading between the lines a little bit, but it's to put some faith back in KTM, right? Is that the message?
I think there's a lot of customers with faith in KTM.
I don't disagree. It's all the ones on the internet
who are all the ones on the internet?
Well, the guy who bought the Yamaha and has been trying to get all his KTMs to turncoat and for years.
We have an incredibly loyal customer base that has stood behind our brand for decades, and will continue. The Orange Blood campaign is actually about recognizing those customers. So there's an opportunity for customers to join the organization. There's something called the Orange Board, where they can apply to be part of like a board of directors on the company. You can too. So your employees can log on, customers can log on. Of course, there's going to be a vetting process, and they're going to condense that. But there'll be basically an advisory group to our headquarters on how can the brand get better, what are they looking for out of the brand, what are they looking for out of products, how can our products get better. So truly like market feedback and hearing directly from our customers. And then another aspect of it is just showcasing our customers enjoying the brand and enjoying the product and being part of the motorcycling community that we love.
Right.
And so us showcasing customers in our social and in some of the media that we have around customers enjoying the product.
I think it's a great idea. Yeah. I like it.
We're getting ATVs back. If enough people vote, we get it back. So, I mean, I'm just saying this. Hey, there's your clickbait for this one. The ATVs are coming back.
ATVs are coming back.
You got to go vote. You got to go.
How did we get off on this ATV
Hey, he brought it up, and you're the one who brought it to market.
Hey.
I'm just pushing the vote. That's my job. You come up with the ideas, I push them. So I'm doing my part.
We're doing a lot. We're doing a lot better than back then.
Yeah.
We're doing some different things.
Well, since Brad's stirring the pot, what's your background, Brad?
My background. I just grew up a motorcycle enthusiast, or addiction. I just did, grew up real bitty riding motorcycle like everybody else in the backyard. Like just, wanted to go racing, family was into other stuff, like to just carried on from there. And then, man, I was racing in college, put myself through college as a mechanic, worked a couple of mechanic jobs. And then just one thing leads to another. And, somebody talk about it, you hear people say, find something that you'll do for free and somebody pay it, you never work a day in your life. And I was under this illusion I was going to be fast enough to do that. And that was an illusion. I was not that fast, but when I was in college, I ended up, long story short, working at a dealership there to do this deal, and man, got out and I didn't know what I wanted to do. It's like all I'd ever want to do was motorcycles. And I never forget it. Got out of college, zero plan, like typical way I go through life with not much plan, but went to work for a little mom and pop shop back home. A buddy of mine started, and I had a rep walk in one day, and it was Friday afternoon, perfect fall day, perfect motorcycle riding weather, bicycle riding weather. And the guy, he goes, I said, what are you doing after you leave here? It's about 11 o'clock. He goes, man, I'm going to ride my motorcycle. I said, man, I want a job like you got. I want to ride my motorcycle Friday afternoon too. And long story short is got him a resume, and that company was looking for, a rep at the time, and got into sales and moved to Charleston. I mean, I've been in the motorcycle business for all but a couple of years there. At one point I thought I wanted to go get a real job, and that was a mistake. So I actually went farming for a couple of years on a commercial farm, and that's not me.
They make you work.
There's a lot of work involved in working. That's not me.
Working something other than your job.
Yeah. So dude, that didn't work. I had a little one at the time, and he had got into riding, and we were racing, and farming and racing don't really overlap in the season. Yeah. So like I said, the race seasons are in farm season, and that doesn't work. And man, just kind of party ways with that project. And a friend of mine called one day, and he goes, hey man, KTM's looking for a guy in the Southeast, and got in, and man, it's dude, I work with a bunch of, work is a loose term. Like I said, it's a lot of effort and a lot of stuff, but man, dude, 90% of the time of what I'm doing, other than expense accounts or checking emails, dude, I would do for free. Like, this is what I do. And I guess my real answer is that when I went farming, the first day I had off, ended up back in my buddy's motorcycle shop. Mm-hmm. Like, every time you turn me loose, I ended up back in the same place. And then, and so now I got a 15-year-old, and as he's got up, we've got into racing, and man, the company allows us to go racing, and we go to all the GNCCs, and we work trackside support. And it's funny because most people that see me at the trackside support think I'm one of our techs. They have no idea I'm into sales, and it for me, it's a way to reconnect with the customer base. As I get to go back, if we have an issue or a non-issue, I get hey, every one of these fails. Well, man, I sell a couple 100,000 of them, every couple of years, and I don't think every one of them fail. It's the whole deal. And then if there is an early on problem, we can address them. And 90% of what we see is customer induced, whether it's lack of maintenance or lack of knowledge of maintenance, and we can
help. There's a ton of that. I've seen KTM Goodwill.
Yeah, I mean, we we do that, and like Hinz skipped over it a while ago, and I don't think it was intentional, but when COVID kind of got over, I think it was your and Mark Hyde's idea to go to do this trackside support at GNCC. We started taking back off, and customers were looking for parts when you had part shortages. We took a couple $100,000 worth of parts and put them in a truck and took them to the GNCCs and started helping customers with bikes. And, we don't charge labor, or we don't charge most time. Like we will work for cookies or ice cream, kind of, but we know the parts was there, and, we sold the parts and worked on the bikes. But dude, for me, it's just, I don't know, man. I've made a living doing something I would do for free. So, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, that's, it sounds corny, but I mean, it's just that. Like, show me. Like a good friend of mine just took, what I consider a real job. He clocks in at 8 and out at 5. And it's like, bro, is that really what you want to do? And like I said, dude, think about it. Like, you come in here and you have a bad day and you only sell a couple motorcycles. You don't have the right motorcycle. But I mean, dude, everybody that comes in here, we work in an adult toy box.
How can you not be happy walking
in? You can't work in an adult.
Even when we were walking in, I got a big smile. Like, we're walking into an amazing dealership. Like,
dude, I mean, that's it. But Hinz, we ride on the road, and he goes, hey man, tell me about these guys at Pandora's. And I said, dude, they're our people. I was I know, like, all of y'all ride on your own time. All y'all ride bicycle on your own time. I said, hey, you're going to walk in here, and there's going to be bicycles laying everywhere. I said, 1 or 2 of those for sale. The rest of them are Matt and Carlos or some of the other staff. And I said, there'll be motorcycles out front, and they're dirty. Those aren't trade-ins. That's what they rode last night. They hadn't got them cleaned up. And it's a passion. I think some of these people nowadays use the word passion as an overstatement. I think it's become a marketing buzzword, as we all talk about. But dude, it's just who we are. Like, you turn us loose and like throw all the laptops out and all the spreadsheets out, throw all that stuff out. We're just motorcycle dudes.
It's amazing how much people, like, if they get into dirt biking, especially, or motorcycling in general, they're devoted to that. It's not like I'm watching football on Sundays. I couldn't tell you who played in the Super Bowl. It doesn't matter to me.
Nope.
And like, I have, I go to church on Sundays, and so I'm there talking to the other guys at church, and like, I've got barely anything to relate to them with.
Same.
So that's always a
my
struggle
church
with
is
me.
the motocross track. Every Sunday I'm at Kawee Creek.
Yeah,
dude, I
can be there. That's my Sunday church.
Yeah,
riding my dirt bike.
Dirt church, right?
Dude, I see it as it's a family experience. Like we talk about when my kid races. Like, dude, we race about every. Like, I think I have a racing addiction. Like, I think there's a.
I was going to ask you how many weeks a year.
Dude, a lot. Like, we were looking at from the beginning of February to the end of June, we're home 2 weekends. And a lot of people go, I can't believe you spend that much money racing, and with the travel stuff, or you do motorcycles all week, you do motorcycle all weekend. But the one thing I would tell them is every Thursday night, every Friday night, every Saturday night, every Sunday night, I can reach and touch my 15-year-old. He's in the camper with me.
Yeah.
like I said, like I said, so what is that worth? I mean, like, there's the goosebumps, like I said, I remember growing up with a kid and like me and my wife and kid yesterday, part of his motorcycle little program is, he's got a workout deal. So yesterday was an hour bicycle ride.
Yeah.
So yesterday after work, we loaded up and the three of us went and rode bicycles turned into 2 hours,
It's
and
like a family sport. You talk about going to the track and camping with all these other guys who are just out there for the whole weekend. And
that's it. You can look at my kid's phone and he's got like his buddies are, he's got kids we race with from Canada, from Illinois, from New York, from Florida. Like he hangs out with some of the kids around home, but those kids just aren't the same as dirt bike kids. The dirt bike kids go out like that's like, we win some and we lose a lot, we do a lot of racing, but like one of my favorite photos of my kid ever was a couple years ago, GNCC, it rained. I know you don't believe that part, but it had a muddy GNCC. There's a picture of somebody got a picture of my kid at Indiana, and he's got the bike over. And so this was a couple years ago. So he was 13, side of the track during a race, and him and two of his little buddies during the race have got the airbox cover off, and they figured out the bike, what's wrong with it. They didn't get it fixed, but he figured out what had happened. And dude, that's just cool. Like I think there's a survival skill set that comes out of that kids nowadays, I'm not sure you can get that off a video game.
No,
like there's not a reset button in racing. Like you don't get to go, I crashed, I get to start over. And like there's some piece of it, but
well, you also just can't get that from a lot of team sports. You're talking about throwing out the stick and ball. Like those absolutely have value for personal development and all of that.
100%.
But there's so much more you get out of motocross, and you're talking about the family aspect as well. Like just having your kid within arm's reach all weekend, every weekend. If you want to be a family man, go out camping with your kid every weekend and follow the motocross circuit. Like,
dude, that's it. I mean, that we look like the Great American. We look like, I don't know, like National Lampoon's Christmas. We show up and we got two dogs in the car and motorcycles and bicycles. Like we should I guess we like to clamp as we go up and throw all our stuff out and go, hey, we're home. And 3 days later, you pack it all up and then tell everybody from all over the world, hey, I'll see you in 2 weeks in another part of the world. And it becomes who we are. So you asked me how I got into the sport, and the answer is it's just who I am. Like I don't know if I got into it or got out of it, but we just do it. Like before we went on, before we started this podcast, Hinz is telling you like he rode his bicycle halfway across the United States.
Yeah.
Like how many other people have done that? Like I
fun.
Just for fun. He's not racing. He's just like, hey, we're doing
Nobody's chasing you.
Yeah, no.
It's just, but I mean, we talk about it all the time. Like there's a survival instinct that comes out of all this that I think is rad.
That's important to remember through all the arguing. Sorry.
Yeah. No, we always talk about like work-life balance, and you talk about it with a lot of our employees, and what I tell them is I'm terrible. Like I have zero work-life balance because for me it's just life.
Yep.
Yeah. There isn't a difference. Like I love going to work. I love working with all of you. I love working with our employees, with our dealers. I love being around motorcycles. Like we get a chance to every day sit and hang out with our friends and talk about motorcycles.
Right.
What an amazing opportunity. Like this is life. And when I get home, I'm on the phone, I'm finishing up phone calls, I'm turning on Supercross, I'm watching GNCC on Sunday. If I'm at home after going to the motocross track, I get on a bicycle, go on a bicycle ride, and like it's just what we do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and
it's just life for us.
Yeah, and motorcycles and bicycles, maybe more than anything, bring so many diverse people together. Like there's always differences in people. The $500,000 annual salary guy and the $50,000 annual salary guy are different Monday through Thursday, right? Mm-hmm. But Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the motocross track, everybody's the same. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter. You might be in a smaller camper, or you might be sleeping in the back of your pickup truck, or in a tent, but like everybody's there for each other. Everybody supports each other. And it's the same. It's not just at motocross tracks. It's at, it's out on adventure rides. It's
say for John, he's doing the bicycle stuff too.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah. And I want to touch on the bicycle stuff too, because that obviously, I mean, we're building a bicycle shop next door. My wife Carla has been to Kona. She's been Ironman World Championships in Kona, qualified for that in 2019. I race mountain bikes for forever. I still race a little bit. I think I've got 85 miles this week on bicycles already. So on regular, not your e-bike.
But we all make bad decisions.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. What's that?
You actually have to work for it.
Yeah.
My truck used to have roll-up, hand crank windows in it too. But hey, we'll all advance at some point. But you just keep riding your regular bike.
Yeah. Well, I ride the e-bikes too, so they're fun. But I ride it like a mountain bike. It's always in boost. It's all it might as well just have one mode.
Yep.
So ride across America.
Yeah.
What is it? A Trans-American?
I think they call it the Trans-American Trail.
Yeah. But it's on the road.
Uh-huh.
And you guys are doing a section of it yearly. So,
myself and some friends and at work and a couple of friends outside of work, we got this crazy idea to ride across America, and we're like, there's no way that we can possibly do this because we're all working full time. We got jobs and like we're busy, right?
Right.
And so our director of off-road racing, his name's Auntie Cullinan, Finnish, detail oriented, loves logistics. He came back a couple days later and he's like, no, I think we can do it. I've mapped out everything. We can do it over 8 years, do a section each year.
8 years.
And he's mapped out every single airport we're going to fly in and out of, every hotel we're going to stay in, every food stop, every water stop, calculated mileage, like everything's done. I was like, all right, well, I guess we're doing this now. So we finished 4 years of it. So we rode from Astoria, Oregon, all the way across the Rockies. We landed this year in Colorado Springs, and I think this next year, I think we're going to Wichita, Kansas. I try not to look too far in advance. It stresses me out. I just load up my bicycle and go and start riding.
How many days are you doing this at a time?
So normally it's 5 to 7 days. This year will be 800 miles in 6
I
days.
spent an hour on the trainer and my butt hurts.
Yeah.
Like I cannot imagine being on a bicycle that long.
Yeah, I can.
You don't think
I
bicycle?
can. I can tell you later how that feels.
Yeah. Well, there'll be a lot less elevation gain this year than there was last year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Flat. This last year was some pretty serious elevation. Yeah. Actually, the whole time at elevation, we were above 7,000 feet the whole time.
I used to, every time I had someone coming through doing the Trans-America Trail, the adventure version, I would always just tell them, sorry about Kansas. Like the route is straight and flat.
Yeah, with some wind
about driving or riding through Kansas.
But we all ride. We ride road bikes, gravel bike, mountain bike, e-bike. Like there's a group of us. We ride anything. Kind of depends on the season. We'll change it up, and we just enjoy it. We ride. This last Saturday we did a little off-road trail ride and motocross on Sundays, and we do adventure rides, track days. So just with 2 wheels, motorcycles, whichever motorcycle we have, we're gonna go find the right spot to go ride it and enjoy it. And same with bicycles, and we just love it. Good.
So bicycle business side of things, how's that looking? Where is that headed?
Bicycle business is similar to motorcycle in terms of finding that right level again for all manufacturers in terms of inventory. Yeah, and kind of bringing the business back to the right level. Right. But I think all manufacturers have been making a lot of big steps. Yeah, reducing inventories that they have and dealers have, and
it's a totally different set of manufacturers. That's wild to think about too. That you're like in a position where you're having to think about the 2 separate industries, and they're related. And I think that we have a lot of bleed over from our guys who are running SORX, GNCC, where they're able to pre-ride a course. And they're actually starting to have some e-bike racing that happens along with it. But I
mean, the e-bike crossover customer, motorcycle is pretty high, right? It's such a nice product offering to have here and connect to off-road riders and racers, and like GNCC, it's a tool,
right? For sure.
It's not a bicycle; it's actually a tool.
It's an almost necessary now.
I'm going to say if you don't pre-run on an e-bike, you're at a complete disadvantage. I mean, if you that's it. We go racing. Like if the e-bike doesn't get low, it'd be just like leaving your gas can at home.
Right.
Like it is a required. I mean, just straight up, like you get motorcycle, gas can, boots, e-bike. Like
it also helps. Like that there's going to be a difficult hill climb that's coming up at a certain point. You want to be ahead of whoever that slow rider ahead of you is by the time you get there. Right. Because once you get to that, you don't want to be part of that pile up.
Yeah, I mean, it's like taking route notes in a rally, right? I mean, you kind of. It is necessary now.
I mean, it's almost. You look at it's a safety piece too. I mean, like you figure the old school way of motorcycle racing or whatever, you and 40 of your closest buddies piled into the first turn together and like let's just see how fast we go is on blind.
Yeah.
At least now they're pre-runner, or at least people can tell you that they used to walk the whole course or pedal the whole course. I'm telling you, 90% of the people weren't going all the way.
Right.
You check maybe the first mile and go, oh, I got it now. It's close enough. They go back. With the e-bikes nowadays, I mean, a lot of these guys, GNCCs, they'll pedal a track 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
So there is no surprises. So you get a safety car, and there for sure there's competitive advantage.
Yeah. So obviously, we're seeing that correction on the bicycle side, e-bicycle side, and I know we're going to see the correction on the unit side of the major units, the motorcycles. I think that it was something like gases are coming into the States, or is that confidential? Should I not?
Generally, we're not. We don't talk a lot about the total wholesale volume for the organization, but across the board, we're trying to right size that inventory. So we're taking a look at it not only by brand and by country, but down to a segment level, model level, dealer level, and you may have a lot of inventory, and there may be another dealer that doesn't, and trying to help support all the dealers. There might be able to be a dealer transfer and move inventory, or a different wholesale volume with another dealer than with yours, and so it's truly the business is unique that way, where you have to understand each individual business and where they're at and what the market conditions are and how we can best support them.
I'll have to get them to bleep me out during that part. But anyway, so we're going to see a great reduction, and obviously there's one piece of it that I think that we need to talk about, and I brought it up to you earlier. Obviously, we had a time period where Kimco was stamped on the side of the cylinders, and that raised a lot of alarm bells. And people didn't know that KTM has been working with Kimco for so long, and the accusation comes out. KTM's cheaping out on cylinders. They're moving manufacturing to China, and so I just have to point out Kimco's not a Chinese company. They're out of Taiwan. They're started as a subsidiary under Honda in 1967. And since then, they've been an excellent manufacturer to deal with. So it's not because of cheaping out or anything. It's because they're a good supplier.
Yeah, and even if you go on Kimco USA's website, their homepage, you'll see a slide on there, and there's a picture of Mr. Honda.
Yep.
With Mr.
Soshiro
Kimco
himself.
Yep. And they talk about how they're a proud supplier for Honda, Kawasaki, BMW, and Harley Davidson.
Right.
And that's the type of world-class supplier that we work with, but we're such a small part of their business. They don't even list KTM on their on their website, but they're listing 2 large Japanese brands, a German brand, and an iconic American brand on their website. So it's part of being a global motorcycle company. Like, we're a global manufacturer, and we have global manufacturing sites all over the world, depending on the market needs and the product needs and the vendor supply chain. And you have to have multiple vendors. The products that are being built right now are incredibly complex. Like, the R&D cycle and the investment into R&D via racing and our development cycle requires multiple suppliers in terms of the supply chain. Because if one vendor, defaults, goes bad, can't supply the part, you can't stop an entire assembly line based on the investment that you made in that product. A typical R&D cycle is over 4 years long.
Right.
And when you get down to the final production day and production line, you got to make sure that you've got a quality supply chain, and supply chain is on time to be able to build a motorcycle and bring it to market.
Yeah.
So it's a global organization, and just as all manufacturing is now.
Right.
And sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, me and Brad have laughed about it, but if all these Chinese motorcycles won a lot of championships, didn't they?
Yeah.
That's a Bradism that I don't know if that's public, but that's me making fun of the internet. You see it.
Yeah.
We all laugh. People go, I read on the internet. Well, let's go see what we can find on the internet. I can show you some interesting stuff that we aren't talking about on here, but I'll show it to you anyway. But I mean, that's just it. Like, it was a running joke, and I don't know if it's even funny to Hinz anymore. I think maybe the first time he kind of chuckled when that he's a moron. But every time we come out of this deal, that the whole Chinese press come out, they're all made there, and it's like they're not. We've all established the ways they're not, but I just couldn't help it.
The media didn't do us any favors by saying, like, there's a headline just said KTM moves production to China and didn't elaborate, but that's all that anyone ever reads. So they got the clickbait.
That's how things work nowadays.
Yeah.
So
it's part of social media and part of getting clicks for.
Well, nobody will ever read anything. I mean, Matt even admits it. I sent him an email, and he goes, "Well, I didn't read your email. I just called you." And I was like, "Well, why the hell did I type the email?" But nobody reads anything. Just read. I remember years ago, this I can make fun of my own family. I can't make fun of anybody else's. But I was at a family reunion or some kind of event, and the guy goes, "Hey, did you see Ducati's making a diesel motorcycle?" And I was like, "Do what?" And he goes, "Yeah, they're a diesel." And I was like, "What? No, they're not." And he obviously was a smarter motorcycle guy in the conversation. So so a couple days later, I don't even know what I thought about it. And I Googled it, and Ducati was doing a deal with diesel clothing.
Yeah.
But he read, "Hey, diesel Ducati." And I was like, "Well, that's what's wrong, is we don't read the details anymore." And that's what I liked about, Hinz did some of the videos that we did, the facts versus fishing. Go, hey, here's what you read, here's what it means, and if you read the rest of the story, I think there was a pretty good radio. Does radio even exist anymore? There used to be a radio show, the rest of the story was whatever Paul Harvey's deal was, and it's like I don't think anybody reads the rest of the story anymore.
Well, yeah, and all your buddies who are riding the Japanese bikes for so long, they got something on you now. Like they're gonna scratch at that every chance they get, and they're just preaching what they've always done.
We like it though. I mean, obviously we know the real story, and we know
Yeah,
our facility in Mattighofen, Austria, just outside of Salzburg. That's the Mattighofen is the M in KTM, so it's Conreef Trunk Impulse. Those are the two founders, and M is Mattighofen. That's where the motorcycles are built. That's where our racing headquarters is, a global headquarters, brand headquarters.
yeah.
We've got I think around 700 engineers that work there in R&D that are developing next generation motorcycles. Like we make a massive investment of our total annual revenue into R&D projects. We've got a small little elite R&D crew in the United States that helps define the final specifications for the U.S. market. So there's some global products. A lot of our street bikes are global products, but on the off-road side, like the XC line, that's just built for us here. That's just built for cross-country racing, primarily for GNCC. So we do all the final settings on engine mappings, on exhaust, on suspension settings. Our team does all the final WP Pro component settings for all the off-road bikes. So the multiple settings on Pro component aftermarket. On the motocross side, we have US spec motocross bikes that are built for our tracks, our terrain, how we prep tracks, which is different than really rest of world, but primarily Europe. So we have different suspension settings, again, different engine mapping, exhaust controls, and a different feel for the motorcycle than they have in the rest of the world. So the team here is developing truly specific bikes for this market, for your dealership, and for our customers here in the United States.
So I think we're getting a little short on time, but that made me think, why the big difference in the European bikes? Is it the FIM legal tires with the short knobs and the way the bikes deliver power? And
no, it's primarily like here in the US, there's a lot of track prep, and the prep is different.
Good.
And over in Europe, it's either a sand track or a real hard track.
Obviously, on the street side of things, the emissions is a huge component, but on the off-road side of things, that's interesting that there's that great a difference between
so under
the bikes.
Under street bikes, like Euro 5 and Euro 5 Plus is all exceeds EPA and California Air Resources Board standards. So we're bringing over the global spec, already meets the import regulations on street.
Right.
And we will do some small changes on street bikes that are very specific for our market, like the adventure segment. We'll specify a certain tire that we believe is going to be better for our market. Primarily, we'll ride more aggressive off-road than they will throughout Europe. So we'll have a maybe better than 50/50 tire on our adventure bikes. They'll have a more street-orientated tire on theirs. And the U.S. R&D team, they're doing the final specifications on all of the adventure R model suspension. So 390 adventure and 890 and now 1390.
So they can set it up for fat boys like me.
No. Set it up for how you want to ride.
Yeah.
And in the U.S. and Canada, they're ridden on more aggressive terrain and more off-road terrain than they are in Europe. So actually, a lot of the U.S. spec bikes are also sold in South Africa and Australia just for that reason. So depending on the global market and the market conditions, then we're able to spec the bike, change some small details to make sure that we're bringing the right bike to market for how customers want to use it.
We had a
That's part of the global company, and how nimble we can be and how we can change things pretty quickly.
We even had a US spec, 250 Duke a couple of years ago that was lower than the world spec. As the customers asked, hey, I want a lower bike, lower street bike, so that we were even the ability to just build as like a seat height difference.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that's what's cool about a company this size is like Heinz said with the nimble stuff. If we can make changes as necessary or as more or less a feedback. I mean, think about what he said a while ago. We only make an XC model for the U.S. market.
Yep.
You got any other manufacturer that makes a U.S. spec bike because that's what the racer asked for?
Yeah.
The answer is you don't. You get a bunch of modified motocross stuff. It's it's
Yeah.
different. I mean, that's a huge deal. Turns out putting a kickstand on a motocross bike doesn't make it an off-road race bike.
We put
Believe that or not.
proper, semi-close ratio transmissions, 6 speeds in them. We do proper mappings. We'll do proper exhaust systems. So I mean, we've got a full test crew that goes out and tests on cross country and develops that motorcycle and specifically makes it for the needs of our racers.
Or even down to a translucent tank.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like you don't think about that until you're out of gas.
Oversized.
Or an oversized tank. Like it sounds silly, but I mean,
Yeah.
let me know how much gas is in a black tank without taking the top off of it. I mean, it sounds silly,
It's a
but
simple thing,
but
but
go
it's the
but go
little things
racing. I
that
mean, it's a
count.
difference. I mean, it makes a difference.
So we're kind of running low on time. I guess to kind of transition our way out, what does KTM business look like going from 25 to 26 and 27?
The one thing I love about our company is it's always changing, it's always evolving.
Yep.
And I think probably one of the most exciting things to me is the product development. I mean, the product is everything. It's what our company is about, is the evolution and innovation in product. And
Mm-hmm.
there's some really exciting things coming for our company. And I can't tell you what they are today, but I can tell you there's some exciting products in the pipeline and some of the things I've seen from
No ATVs.
No, we're not doing that again.
You lied to
We're
me
not-
again.
We're not doing that again.
There's always that.
Well, I mean, just
when we look to the future, we know the product. It's 4, 5, 6 years out in development. And, the future's pretty bright. We're pumped. We're excited.
And I've always seen like little fuzzy images.
Yeah. We'll share a few things.
black and white checkerboard wraps and the 390s. I mean, like we've all seen those at this point, or and they look awesome. So if there's more stuff that exciting coming, we're all looking forward to it. So I really appreciate you. I think this is a little bit out of the ordinary for a motorcycle shop to do a podcast in general, but then have you guys on the podcast for sure. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time, and y'all are a long way from home, so I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah,
we knew it was a big ask. That's awesome.
No.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us. Enjoy. We could sit here hours, talk about motorcycles. This is what we love.
We'll cancel dinner reservations and we'll keep talking. I don't care.
Thank you for what you do, and thanks for taking care of our community and all of our riders out there.
Yeah, of course. Thank y'all for putting us in a position that we can. So
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody, for listening today. If you have any questions, comments, put them down below in the comments section. I don't know if I'm going to call up John and get him to answer questions for us, but I can always try. But so check us out, Facebook, Instagram. We have a TikTok now. It doesn't get a lot of activity.
I did admit that
I hate to you guys are too old for
I want to
TikTok.
see you TikTok.
You don't have TikTok.
Well, we don't get any views on there anyway, so it doesn't hardly count. But follow along. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.